us. We are with Bryony and Kate today from Stitched Up, an initiative in Greater Manchester delivering activities based around sewing, clothes repair, upcycling and sustainable fashion. Welcome Bryony and Kate. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so the first question I'd like to ask is, and for the purpose of the audience as well, is just tell us a little bit about Stitched Up's ethos and where the cooperative began.
Yeah, so we started up in 2011 and we were just kind of created by a group of women who all were kind of really into fashion and sewing and like being creative with what you wear and stuff, but also had kind of concerns about the industry as a whole and how it was impacting people globally and how it was kind of having such a big environmental impact as well. And we just wanted to kind of create something that gave people an alternative, because as we saw it, it was hard to really avoid mainstream fashion. It's just everywhere on the high street, really well advertised. So we wanted to kind of create workshops and events where people could just get involved in an alternative to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So how long has Stitched Up been running for now?
So it'll be our 10th anniversary this year. So when we were 10 years in September since we became a proper organisation anyway. We were about a year before that, we were sort of, you know, hanging out, doing stuff, but informally, just kind of putting on events and stuff. But then it was about a year later that we decided to go official and become an organisation. So yeah, I can't believe it's been that long, honestly.
Yeah, a whole decade.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like you said, so it grew really organically. I guess you were just like a group of friends just being creative and doing what you do. And then where did it start to sort of pick up, and where did you gain traction with people interested?
I mean, it's hard to say really. I think back then it was pretty immediate that people were really into the idea of, I think the first events that we ran were upcycling workshops and clothes swaps. And straight away people were into the idea, because even in 2011 it wasn't brand new then, you know, there was lots of people doing those things. So we kind of knew that it had potential straight away, but it took us a while to figure out the actual mechanics of how we could make it work financially. So when we started out, we were all volunteers, we all put in our time for free, and then we would I think it took us about 2 years and we found our first premises, because that was a big deal for us, you know, having a permanent home. So that was like a really big expensive thing, so that was kind of something that we sort of were cautious about it, but also we did jump in 2 feet first at the same time. And we were a bit like, there comes a point where you just have to just give it a go, and we did, and it was just about okay. But we've always, you know, it's not been like, it wasn't like we just started it up and then it was just like, wow, this is really taking off. It's always been quite a sort of organic, slow process with us juggling it around other jobs and like other things that we were doing. So yeah,
and I think that as me and Bryony and Sarah, and me and Sarah also started after it was founded, but also as volunteers. So I think it's always been that kind of people who care about it, who want to be involved, and then end up actually coming on board as well in a more formal way. But again, yeah, it's just grown organically, I think, over that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so lovely to see when people just really care about something and it's off purpose, that it does just grow really organically, and that's really sweet. So once you had the premises, then what sorts of things were you able to do?
It just opened up. We were just able to sort of start running a lot more events really, and we had a shop, so we were selling fabric and we were also selling items that had been made locally. So we were able to support a few local brands, which was really great. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to carry that on for very long because it didn't work financially, but it was really lovely. We just tried out loads of different stuff. We were just like, a shop, we had clothes swaps in there, we did workshops, we had like talks and events and all sorts of stuff going on. And so it just gave us an opportunity to try all of that stuff out and start kind of developing our audience, I guess, just bringing people together and And then once you start running a few events, you know, people come along and then they'll make suggestions, or, you know, new ideas come from each one. And that's still the same now, isn't it, Caitlin? We're still,
yeah, definitely.
It's still always just a process of like listening to people and meeting new people and bringing them in.
And especially over lockdown, that kind of changed how we had to work, because we did so many events that were kind of public facing, that again, you have to just adapt, don't you, and make it work. And we've kind of come full circle, really, because over the pandemic we ended up getting a bigger premises that we could kind of do socially distant stuff, but it means we managed to get our fabric shop back and do all of that again. So it's been good again to go to that side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you find more people were interested in this sort of thing, like following the pandemic, I guess, having so much time at home to learn new skills? And
I think there was a push for it, and people were kind of looking inwards a bit and being like, what have I got at home? I can't go. I don't know. I think people got into online shopping a lot, but there was also that kind of look into what's already there. Maybe I've got a sewing machine that's been sat at the back of the cupboard that I've been meaning to use for ages, and like now I can actually do it. And we were really lucky. A lot of people were really patient with us and kind of signed up for workshops. And then as soon as we could run them again, after that first lockdown, we had loads of interest because people wanted to do that again and had kind of gone back to those creative roots at home, which is really nice to see, really.
I think as well it was an interesting time, wasn't it, because you kind of became aware of how much waste you created because there was no way to get rid of anything. And I think that's another reason why people were thinking a lot more about lots of the issues that we focus on, like textile waste and repair and upcycling, because partly you weren't able to go into the shops to buy clothes, but also then you just had all this stuff at home. Like lots of people were doing clear outs, weren't they, like wardrobe clear outs and decluttering in lockdown, which brings lots of these issues to top of mind as well, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I found as well, for people that I spoke to, you know, on the issue of fast fashion, they sort of just had time to think, you know, who is this for? Who am I dressing up for? When you've sort of got no audience and you're at home, and that really opened people's minds, I think, to alternatives. So education is at the heart of what you do. I'm just wondering, you know, what are the main topics that you try to educate people on, and what different audiences do you have, and how do you tackle different audiences?
I would say for me, the core bits is kind of that waste thing we were talking about, just like how much of it and kind of what consumption does, and also kind of connecting clothes to climate. Like people are getting a better understanding, but people might not understand those like all the different ways your clothes are connected to it, and how much of a kind of a polluter fast fashion is, and also just keeping the people all across the supply chain kind of at the forefront as well, because some people are profiting off these kind of fast fashion industries, and it's never the kind of garment workers who are actually making the clothes. So I think I know I've had like workshops in schools before where kids thought that like they couldn't get their head around that machines didn't make the clothes, like they just don't have that understanding that it's people, especially when they're so artificially cheap because of kind of labor exploitation. So I think they're the kind of two streams that we really try and focus on. And then we work in kind of across loads of groups, like we do lots of stuff in schools, we've done like different groups around Manchester we'll go and do talks for, lots of, we try and like we want to make it as accessible as possible. Like these topics aren't just for one group, they're for kind of everyone to get on board with, I think.
Yeah, and I think we try and always bring in, well, for lots of the workshops that we do, we'll bring in a creative element, you know, even if we're talking about these issues which are so kind of like deeply ingrained and global, and sort of it's hard to see what the solutions are, especially just as someone who's brand new to the issues. But we try and bring in a creative element as well, so that we're showing alternatives as well as just talking about why it's bad. We're sort of showing practical ways that you can do something. So like even if that's just learning to mend your clothes or learning what a clothes swap is and trying that out. So we just want to kind of put across that there's something that everyone can do, and it can be cheap, easy. Often it's more fun, more creative. You know, we want to try and encourage people to just be joyful and like creative and expressive through the clothes they wear, as well as sort of like, you know, it's not, you know, we're moving away from fast fashion because of all the reasons that we know so much about, and we don't need to go into, but you know, but also because it's more fun over here, it's better, you know, it just kind of is a better way to live in lots of ways. So we try and bring that into lots of the educational stuff that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, like when you sort of invoke that creativity in people, and it lights people up, and it definitely gets people to stay and think twice about their consumption, I think, when they're involved in the process. So how do you approach people to work with? Do you find there's any resistance when you approach certain groups or any industries?
I mean, people generally approach us, to be honest. we don't really have the time to be approaching other people for work. It's more people come to us. So yeah, I guess we don't we haven't yet done too much in the way. I suppose the only stuff that we do that is perhaps involves a bit of like persuasion is the kind of campaigning side of what we do, where we're kind of talking directly to companies or you know, kind of like raising awareness of different campaigns that groups are running at the moment about whether it's for workers' rights issues or environmental issues. So that's kind of a bit more, you know, we're putting like ideas out there or thoughts out there, but generally people come to us to work with us because they want to, you know, they like the ideas and they want to like get people involved. And it can be, you know, the reason people come to work with us, it's not necessarily always about sustainable fashion. You know, like we do lots of well-being stuff, lots of work around mental health, and because we know that craft is so beneficial for our mental health. We all know it as individuals, and we see it through the projects we run. So yeah, so I think, and for us, those things are all interlinked. You know, sustainability and mental health are one and the same, because you know, you're looking after one, you're looking after the other, and so it makes sense for us that that's all just seen as a kind of one stream of work kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would an example of like a well-being workshop, what does that look like?
Well, at the moment, we're actually running a couple of kind of 10-week courses in Manchester, and they're for people who they can self-refer but are experiencing kind of mental health difficulties. And it's a place, because I think it's a place to come and you know that it's going to be a safe space where you're around people who are going through similar things, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the main focus of it. You can take your mind off it by doing something else. And we kind of want them to be really participant-led, so we'll kind of guide the participants to come up with whatever the kind of end product is themselves. And I think that's really important. I know if you make something, kind of seeing your ideas come into fruition and that you've made them with your own hands, that's like such a confidence boost, and then the actual making kind of takes you out of yourself for a bit. And I think sometimes doing stuff with your hands can kind of facilitate conversation a bit as well. You're taking your mind off it, and it's not as pressured to kind of talk about all your issues. So we find them to really nice. They're kind of shorter ones, just 10 weeks. But we also run kind of a more continuous kind of, it's volunteering sessions, but we're making stuff for other causes. It's called Social Fabric. And again, that's really nice because you're helping someone else. You're kind of, we'll do things like at the moment we're knitting for premature babies, but we'll do lots of different kind of causes. And again, I think that kind of helping other people can help your own mental health, because you're, again, taking yourself out of yourself and looking outside.
Yeah, it's really lovely to hear like an example of some of the workshops that you do, and hopefully you know, this video shared far and wide, some more people will benefit from that as well. So I mean, what are the biggest obstacles you've faced with setting up the initiative, and what are some of the frustrations that you still face?
Oh, how long have you got? Yeah, I think the biggest one, and one that is currently right in the forefront for us, it's always time and space. So we, you know, being able to, you know, we're at the point now 10 years in where we're all paid staff. We're a very small but all paid team, which is brilliant. To me, it feels like a milestone, but you know, it's what should just be happening. So just having, you know, we always need more staff than we can afford to hire, and we always need a bigger premises than we can afford to rent. So those are the two challenges, and I don't know if that will change anytime soon, but we'll let you know.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest frustrations, because you can see like we know that we can solve a lot of problems that are maybe in Manchester, but we just can't do it because of kind of the time and stuff. Like, you know, like we're saying, we don't, people will come to us because they want to do these things, or they want to donate fabric, all of that, which is amazing. Obviously always good to be busy, but it's frustrating that we kind of know that there's so much more we could do if only we had more time, more space. Always.
Yeah. Oh, she's gone.
Oh, we've lost the person. We'll power on. There's only one more question anyway.
Right.
So you're on the hot seat now, just answer it yourself. Just like what on the back of that as well, like if you have more time, or in the future, where do you see Stitched Out going? Like, do you have any plans or any ways you want to branch out?
Yeah, we definitely we do have plans for a bigger space with a lot more stuff going on, and yeah, we're interested in the idea of being present in different locations. At the moment, we just really have one main space where we offer everything from, but we, you know, it would be really nice to be in lots of different areas, just bringing these kind of activities to local people, because ultimately these kind of things are really useful if it's more accessible to you, if it's local, if it's near you, if it's on, you know, there should be something somewhere where you can go and get your clothes fixed or learn some new skills on every street corner, really, and in every kind of neighborhood, you know, because that's kind of the scale of how we need to tackle the problem. Is, you know, if we're going to reach the most people, we need to be where they are. So so we don't have any concrete plans in that regard, but that's sort of our thinking at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I think accessibility is just something that we all need to just power on with going forward, and it's something that never stops, really, does it?
No, definitely. It's always a challenge for us, because we you know, we want to be as present for people as possible, but as we've just described, you know, there's always kind of constraints on what we can do, basically. So we're always kind of like doing that kind of juggling act, but yeah, that's what we're hoping to do in future, is kind of be in more places. So
yeah, well, it sounds like you're doing a fantastic job so far, 10 years in, going strong. So yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time today as well.
No problem. Thank you for having us.